personality related to work engagement? So if personality is the stable, enduring pattern of thinking, acting, and behaving, and engagement is the state of being actively energized, involved in your work, they are quite different things. So personality traits are different because they're stable over the long term, whereas engagement is more variable and it's more situational, right? Your personality traits don't change, but your work engagement can be boosted, improved, it can be diminished or harmed as well. So we can look at these highly stable traits versus states and kind of more variable ways of looking at things that you can change and improve in the workplace. Now, it's useful to look at work engagement because if it's something that we can improve, and we know from the research that it's highly related to productivity, we want to look at how engagement is related to stable traits, and then what are the more variable things you can do to boost work engagement. So generally, there's some correlations between the big five traits or personality traits in general and work engagement. Different research would indicate different things, but it does look like the two most correlated traits are conscientiousness and emotional stability, or that's low neuroticism, or however you're conceptualizing it. So that means conscientiousness and higher levels of conscientiousness tend to be a bit predictive of higher levels of work engagement. People who are good at long-term planning, long-term focus, good at organizing themselves, tend to have slightly higher levels of work engagement on average. Now, conscientiousness doesn't entirely explain work engagement, but the research does show people who have a bit higher conscientiousness tend to also have a bit higher work engagement. Now, the other thing that consistently has a relationship between work engagement in the research on personality is either neuroticism or emotional stability. So people who have higher levels of emotional stability, or it's also referred to adjustment often, low levels of neuroticism, tend to have higher levels of work engagement. And that's really consistent with what adjustment predicts across the board, right? Adjustment or emotional stability tends to predict higher general life satisfaction, work satisfaction, satisfaction with friendships, pretty much anything related to having a positive outlook or evaluating things positively tends to have a relationship with that emotional stability. Now, that's not the only determinant of all of these factors, but it tends to consistently show in the research a relationship. So people who have higher levels of emotional stability, higher levels of adjustment, kind of stress adjustment, tend to have slightly higher levels of work engagement. People with lower levels of that emotional stability tend to have slightly lower levels of work engagement. Personality factors are definitely not the only contributors to work engagement, but they are one small factor. So it is interesting to know, if you're looking at both personality and engagement, that there is some relationship there. Now, other factors and situational factors and work factors in particular are much better at determining work engagement than personality factors. So that's things like the level of workload compared to the level of support and help and resources you have in getting your job done. The more supportive your manager is, the more independence you have in your work, the more clarity you have about workplace goals, the more ability you have to shape and craft your own job and your own demands compared to the demands that are put on you when the job, generally the higher engagement there is. If someone has a job where you can really get immersed in your work, you have time to focus and use your skills to their maximum effectiveness, that's when you get into that state of work engagement. Now, there's a few personality factors that might help it along a bit, that might contribute to work engagement a bit, but there's all of these other factors that we can really change and improve in the workplace to maximize work engagement and consequently productivity.